What's up guys, Coach Az here. Today we're going to talk about shadow boxing with weights. I'm often surprised at how controversial this topic is. If you search YouTube, you'll see there are so many varied opinions about whether or not it's beneficial for you to work shadow boxing whilst holding weights in your hands. And I think a lot of the confusion comes from not understanding what the benefits of doing this would be. There seems to be a misunderstanding that working with weights is going to increase your speed and power for your punches. But this simply isn't the case because of the way the resistance is being applied. You see, if we wanted to move faster or more powerfully through a range of motion, we'd need to apply resistance through that range of motion. So take for instance throwing a punch, that resistance would have to come from the back to the front. However, when we hold weights, all we're really doing is adding to the weight that's coming down onto the punch. So are there any benefits to actually training this way? In my opinion, yes. But rather than it being about speed or power, I believe the benefits come from stamina. Let's take the weights out of the equation for a moment. Just stand in your stance and throw a non-stop 1-2, jab cross, non-stop for a 2-minute round. Now you tell me where you start to feel the fatigue kicking in at the earliest points. For the majority of people, that fatigue is going to kick in at the shoulders. The reason for this is, as you extend away from your center of mass, that creates a lever, and that means that the object at the end of your arm becomes heavier. So every time you throw out a punch, you're increasing the load on your shoulders. This is the reason why missing a punch is so much more draining than actually landing it on the target. You see, if you throw a punch and it lands on the target, your shoulder gets a brief moment of relaxation. It also has something to bounce off of on its way back to your guard, provided that you're not dropping your hands. Now, when you miss your target, you are fully reliant on your shoulder to bring that arm back to your guard. Another misunderstanding comes from our preconceived notions about what weight training should look like. When you go to the gym and lift weights, you're generally working with a principle known as progressive overload. Progressive overload is where we slowly over time increase the amount of weight that we are lifting so that our muscles can adapt to the given resistance and get stronger over time. But again, remember, when we're talking about shadow boxing with weights, we are not trying to increase strength over time, we are simply trying to develop more stamina. So when selecting a weight for shadow boxing, I suggest no heavier than 3 pounds, and realistically 2 pounds is going to be the sweet spot. If you've ever trained with a 16-ounce glove, you may not realize, but that actually weighs 1 pound. So by using a 2-pound weight, you are literally doubling the load on your shoulders. You really need to take your ego out of the equation. Trust that you don't need to use a heavy weight because physics is what's going to help you add that resistance to your shoulders. The 3-pound weight is something that I would reserve for my heavyweight fighters or those that are particularly muscular in their upper body. For the majority of you watching this video, that 2-pound weight is going to be the sweet spot. But how do we go about the training itself? Well, the most simple version is just to set yourself a timer, whether it be a 1-minute, 2-minute round, and simply shadow box as you normally would with holding the weights. Now you'll probably need to increase the rest period between each set of this. So an example of how I like to work this is I will do a 1-minute round followed by 40 to 45 seconds of rest before repeating. Alternatively to this, you can do 1 round with the weights and then 1 round without the weights. This way you can decrease the amount of rest because the amount of load in the second round is going to be reduced. Now, an important note here, when you put those weights down and start punching, you are going to feel like Goku working without his weighted training clothes.
There's 30 pounds, and here's 50, and another 50. The
punches will feel faster, but this is more of a temporary benefit that you get from switching from the heavy resistance to the light one. Again, it doesn't necessarily translate to you having more speed in your punches in the long run. But what it does mean is that hopefully you'll be able to last longer during the round. An alternative approach is to take a specific combo and simply put it on a loop. So like we did at the start when I told you to do it without the weights, you can take a 1-2 and just throw that non-stop for a round. Again, you might have to reduce the length of the round for this because that constant repetition is going to fatigue your shoulders a lot faster. Generally speaking, when I work with weights like this, I like to do it as a 10 to 15 minute finisher at the end of my workouts. I see a lot of people warming up with this kind of exercise, and I don't think that's a great idea. Your energy and your focus should always be on your technique first. So being able to do your pad work, your bag work, your sparring and your drills at maximum efficiency with maximum effort, that's what we want to focus on. This should always be something to just top it up at the end of your training. If you're new to this, I'd suggest only including it in your training 1 to 2 times a week. As you get more experience, you could build that up to 2 to 3 times. Always try to include a rest day in between working this to give your shoulders the opportunity to recover. As I said before, this shouldn't be something that you build your sessions around. This should be the cherry on the cake. It's that little bit of extra work at the end to make sure that you can go that little bit longer than your opponent.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
So guys, I hope this video has been helpful. This video actually came as a suggestion from one of our subscribers. So if there's anything you'd like to hear my opinion on, please drop it down in the comments below. If you could hit that like button, it really helps me out and the channel. Please subscribe if you haven't done already, and we will see you on the next one.